Floss Tube. It is Friday, August 30th, almost the end of the month. And I'm here today back with an old favorite, Sevan, and I've got it so that you can see the full corner before I roll it up to where I'm going to start. So I'm going to just do that now. But it's just, the colors in this are just so vibrant and beautiful. Let me just go through the list in case you're curious about what these colors are. They're all DMC. The blue is, of course, our old familiar 797, the dark blue. The light blue is, where is it? 799. I did know that. 799. And the beige, it's called beige gray, but it's more, I'm going to say it's more of an ecru right in there. That color is 822. We've got our gold along here and inside all of here, which is DMC 680. The coppery color in here is 918. And that greenish teal is DMC 991, which is just such a pretty color. Such a pretty color. Now there's one more DMC in here that is kind of a highlight of the show, which is DMC 310. And I am away from home at the moment, and guess which floss I left at home? You got it, DMC 310. So that's why I've come in here and I've started to do all of the other stuff with the floss that I do have here. So I'm going to roll it up. And today what I thought I would work on would be the next little motif. Here, I guess I can leave a little bit more there in case you want to see a little bit more of it. I've got my needle minder that was gifted to me by Lisa Francis. She gifted this to me at the New Jersey retreat, and it's one of my favorites. Gilmore Girls reference, and if you've been watching for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of the snow. All right, so let's pull up my chair and see what we've got here. Made a fresh cup of coffee. The tabletop that I'm on here, it's like a little desk, a little teeny tiny table desk, and it's a little bit wobbly. So I'll try not to bump it too often so as not to wiggle the camera too much, but we'll see. Okay. Put that safely over there. I know I've put my coffee on my pattern, which is a big no-no, but you know, especially with a wobbly table, I guess. But I'm gonna take my chances today. Also, these geometric patterns, one square is like the other. One corner is like the other. So if I do spill coffee on it, I can use my other copy. Now I think, what am I going for here? The next one up is gold. So got my needle on the back here today. So I mentioned that we're away. I am away with my dad. I've taken my dad on a little trip. My father had a milestone birthday this year, and a big milestone birthday this year. And so to celebrate, I've taken him on a little trip. We are staying on a horse farm, and if you've been following along on my Instagram feed, I posted a few pictures over the last couple of days of the resident pigs that are on this farm. And there's two of them. I just need to tighten up my frame a little bit here. I'm using a Kay's Craftworks. No, sorry. I always mix this up with the Hearthside. It's a Kay's Creations lap frame. I've got a few of these and I really like them. This is a working horse farm, and I have to tell you, one of the most immaculate horse barns I've ever seen. So we have been entertained by the resident pet pigs that are on this farm. There are two of them. They are free-range pigs named Bentley and Tonka, and they're hilarious. I mean, they're really, really funny. They're completely in love with people, and they will follow you around, hoping that, for a snack. We have not been feeding them, but they. Can you hear that? Isn't that wonderful? Doesn't that sound wonderful? They follow you around, and the one, Bentley, likes to be scratched on the tummy. And then this morning, out the side door, we noticed Tonka lying on the mat on the step there, which was rather amusing. So it's been a lovely little getaway, and very nice to celebrate my dad. And I think he's having a pretty great time. So yes, I did bring a couple of projects to work on while I'm here. I brought my Ink Circles Forest Flower, which I have not put a single stitch in. And I brought some knitting. I left Sarah's Afghan at home. I wanted some simple knitting for this trip, so that, I figured I wouldn't have a lot of time, and when I did, I might be tired, so I wanted stuff that was just really simple. And Sevan is one of those pieces that, as long as you remember all of your floss, then you're pretty good to go. But whatever, I've got enough. Every once in a while, one of the horses will neigh or nicker, and it's just, I just love that sound. Love that sound. There was, for the first time yesterday, a little bit at the cottage, but more so, I think, now, because we're really at the tail end of August, where I felt like I could feel the first sort of fingers of fall. And let me tell you, this is just, we are approaching my absolute favorite time of year. Fall throughout winter. I just, I prefer it. I just prefer it. I like spring too. So I guess summer is really the only season that's not my favorite, and I really don't have anything against it. I'm just more of a cool person rather than a heat-loving person. I could do without the heat. And in Ontario, we have very high temperatures throughout the summer. They come and go, and the humidity is quite, the humidity can be quite bad. Now, we had nothing compared to what Europe experienced this year. That's for sure. But, overall, I just prefer fall through winter and spring. It's when I'm most happy. So, there was that smell in the air. The smell right before it's going to change. And people are starting to talk about pumpkin spice lattes, of which, I've never really been a fan. That's kind of my little confession here. I've tried them, and I will drink them, but I won't purposefully go and buy a pumpkin spice latte. They're just not my favorite. I just tend to prefer either if I'm going to splurge at a treat at Starbucks, it's going to be a vanilla latte instead of the pumpkin spice. But, the whole season of apples coming into season, and pumpkins and squash, and hearty soups and stews, and those kind of things just really make me quite happy. So I am ready. I'm ready for fall. So that's kind of exciting. There's a donkey on this farm. We heard him yesterday morning quite early, and he's just a lovely, lovely fellow. I can't remember what his name was, but he was quite friendly. There's a small pony in the same paddock as the donkey, but that pony is not terribly enamored of humans. I believe this farm is also equine rescue. They do some equine rescue. I know some of the proceeds from this small house that we have rented go towards benefiting equine rescue monetarily. There are some pieces of furniture in this house that are for sale, and apparently 100% of the proceeds of the furniture goes towards their rescue operation. It's quite a magnificent place. I don't really want to say where we are, but maybe I'll tell you more about that on Monday when my dad and I are back home. But having a lovely time. You may have noticed I'm back to stitching one-handed, giving my left hand a little bit of a break. My thumb was acting up again over the last couple of weeks. Nothing serious. So it's more preventative than anything. I'm just kind of babying it a little bit. Any stitching is good stitching. Doesn't matter if it's one-handed or two. So I believe I mentioned already the DMC flosses that I'm using. The fabric for this piece is a 16 count off-white Aida, and all of the previous landmark tapestry charts from this series I've done on the exact same fabric, and I'm using 2 strands. I think the coverage is quite good. I'm quite happy with it. The black, really up close, you can see a little bit of the fabric peeking through, but from far away, from a distance, you can't notice that at all. And once they're framed, it's negligible. They're quite beautiful. So, well, at least in my humble opinion, they're quite beautiful. Love them. So yeah, what else can I tell you? How else can I wax poetic about fall and the coming winter season, snow, and all of the things that I'm looking forward to? I've been going through some old cookbooks. I've gotten out of the habit of doing, a lot of new cooking. Lately, my husband does a fair bit of cooking. He's very good, and he's gotten better as the years go on. He's quite a good cook, and so we tend to share the cooking. But I've found that when it's my turn to cook, I find myself making the same things, over and over and over again, and getting a bit bored with my own cooking. So I'd really like to try and find some simpler, whole foods recipes for the months ahead when I have some time at home to sort of experiment a bit more in the kitchen. We don't eat out a lot. We hardly eat out at all. So most of our meals are eaten at home, with and made from ingredients that you can pronounce the names. And I'm not trying to sound snobby about that, because heaven knows we know how to open up a box of craft dinner like nobody's business, and enjoy it as well. It just seems to be that we tend to make food, lots of big salads and not casseroles per se, not casseroles. That's not the word I'm looking for. John's good at making curries and chili and a beef stew, those kinds of things. So has me sort of thinking ahead to what kinds of things I can make. I'm not usually a recipe follower. I'm curious, those of you out there listening and visiting with me today, do you find that you are a recipe follower, or do you sort of fly by the seat of your pants when you cook? My mother-in-law was very much a recipe follower, and I think that's because she didn't do a lot of cooking when she was young, when she was growing up. Her mother was an amazing cook and baker, and so her mother made everything. And then when my mother-in-law was first married, she had to learn how to cook and prepare food, and so she really relied heavily on a few cookbooks that she'd received as wedding gifts. And then just throughout her life, that's just how she cooked. I found that I was taught by my mother from a fairly young age on how to put a meal together. My mother, and hi Mom, if you're listening to this, we miss you, and I promise Dad's having a great time. My mom was an emergency room nurse working shift work for many, many years. And so from a young age, she helped me learn how to prepare a basic meal so that, when she was working shift work, and my dad also, my father worked quite long days and wouldn't get home until about 5:30, that we could eat as a family, by around 6 o'clock. Even if my mom was at work, my dad and my brother and I could have a meal in good time. So, my mom taught me things like how to time everything, how to ensure that everything was kind of ready at the same time, because it's a skill, isn't it? Making sure that your potatoes are done at the same time as your broccoli, as your chicken, because they all have different cook times. And learning that, tends to be a bit tricky if you've never done it before. So I don't know that I've ever told my mom this. So Mom, I've always appreciated that you taught me the basics of good cooking, because it's done me well. And there we have it. First thread done. Let's have a peek. What do we have here? Ooh, looking good. Looking good. The other thing that I wasn't so good at learning from my mom was good at a lot of things. My mom's a good gardener. I'm a terrible gardener. I have a black thumb. My mother has the most beautiful gardens, and she always did. Growing up, she had a magnificent vegetable garden, magnificent flower gardens, just everything my mom touched was always just bloomed. And she would can things, and she just knew how to do all those kinds of things. So she taught me, I think she taught me quite well, but I never really paid much attention to the canning or the pie making. I liked eating the pie, but I was never really interested in making the pie. And now I find it's been a goal of mine for the last, oh goodness, I'm going to say like 10 years to learn how to make a proper pie. And I still haven't gotten on and done it. And I probably discussed this last year around this time, because as soon as I start thinking about apple harvest, I start thinking about my mom's apple pie and thinking, yeah, I really should get on and learn how to make mom's apple pie. Still haven't done it, but one of these days I'm going to get on and do it. So apple pie, that's the first thing. I need to master my mom's pastry because my mom makes a great pastry. And the other thing, and I was really close to doing this last year, and then I just ran out of time, and that's learning how to can. My mother makes the best pickles. So dill pickles and sweet pickles, like not really a bread and butter, hard to describe, but crispy and sweet and delicious. So I'd like to learn how to make her pickles, and I would love to be able to can different things. Now I'm at the tail end of the season, so at this point in time, I may have time to can applesauce, and maybe that's a good goal if I just focus on one simple thing this year. Go and get a bushel of seconds, make some applesauce, and then maybe practice learning how to can on the applesauce. I make a really good applesauce. I use the slow cooker. And again, I know I've talked about this before. Again, it's one of those fall things. My brain starts to, start spinning on all of my favorite things that I do in the fall. And I love making applesauce in the crock pot because it just makes the house smell amazing. And the only thing I use are apples and cinnamon. That's it. No sugar, just apples and cinnamon. I peel and chop as many apples as I can stuff into the crock pot, and I sprinkle it liberally with cinnamon. And then I just let it cook away on low for most of the day until it, completely breaks down and you can mash it with a potato masher, and it starts to turn color. So it's not the sort of pale color of an applesauce that you would buy in the store, but more of a sort of a caramel, that sort of golden buttery color, when it's just right. And your whole house smells amazing. That's when you know it's done. And then normally I freeze it. I normally package it up in smaller containers and freeze it. My son eats it like ice cream. Not that he eats it frozen, but he eats buckets of the stuff. So it doesn't tend to last very long, but I'm wondering if it might be a good first thing to learn how to can, because of course I've missed all the great berries for jams and things like that, which is not unusual for me in the summer because of being at the cottage. I don't have access to the farmers markets and things like that for buying fruit in bulk and making jams and stuff. I have made jam before, but I made a freezer jam, and it was delicious. I think it was raspberry, and I've done strawberry before too, but it's been a number of years. I've gotten out of the habit of making those kinds of things. I used to make everything from scratch, including bread and just everything. I miss it. As we get busier, the kids get older and everything just takes more time. Sarah's starting university in just a few days, and I think things are going to start to quiet down a little bit with just having Nicholas around. But trust me, my son takes after me and could literally talk you to sleep. He's a wonderful talker, my son. And I really hope, he's 11, so I really, really hope as he gets older that he doesn't lose that, and that he always wants to talk as much as he does now, because it's rather spectacular. There we go. Let's see. He's filling these two here. Work my way up. Oh, I can, out my window, I'm seeing a rider on a horse going past at a nice, gentle clop. Oh boy. I wonder if they'd notice if I just didn't go home, if I just stayed here. This place is pretty magical. Anyway, I do have to go home. We go home tomorrow. That's okay. I like where I live too. It's all good. And dreaming of fall, beginning of school. I know I usually get a few questions about that when I start talking about the beginning of school for us, because I know to many of you it seems a bit late, but that is very normal for children in Ontario. In fact, I think it's Canada-wide. Our kids go back to school right after Labor Day. Kyle asked me yesterday, he said, "Oh, we have a 3-day weekend. Do you celebrate Labor Day?" And he spelled it Labor. And I said, "Yes, we do celebrate, but we call it Labor Day, and it's Labour, because we're Canadian and that's how we spell labor." And we do have Labor Day weekend. And so Monday is a holiday. And then our kids go back to school the first Tuesday after Labor Day. And then they stay in school until the very end of June. So I know that's a bit different for many of you whose kids have already been back in school for a few weeks. There we go. Oh. Sometimes my stitches are a little bit messy, and I should just railroad as I'm going. Railroading is simply when you stick your needle through the 2 strands before you put it in the hole. And then you can see how I've split the thread there. I haven't split the thread, but I've split the 2 lengths of floss. And then as you pull your needle through, it helps those 2 strands lie a little more flat. But sometimes I'm just too lazy to do it on every stitch. I figure it's just for me, really, and my wall. So it doesn't much matter. I've pulled Sevan back out, number one, to bring it because it was an easy piece to work on with not needing, a lot of concentration. But also because I really want it done and I want to start the next. I am itching to start one of those geometric designs, one of the ones from my treasure island, my treasure garden. What is it? Pretty sure it's my treasure island. The Etsy shop that I talked about a few months ago on Monday Floss Tube. They look like oriental carpets, and they are stunning. They're stunning. And, Letitia and I, the crafty curator, she and I were joking about, because we both love the same kind of beautifully vibrant, colorful patterns with geometric designs. Pretty much guaranteed we're both going to love it. And we were joking around that, people wanted sampler walls, which are beautiful. And I also love samplers. And I am going to be participating in September Sampler Soiree, something like that. I am starting my sampler when I get home next week. And but we want a tapestry wall. Oh yes, an entire tapestry wall filled with beautiful color, geometric designs. So if I'm going to make that wall happen, I need some more tapestry designs that are finished. So I better get on with it, or else it'll never happen. Heaven knows no one else in my family is going to pick up a needle and thread. I keep hoping. Nicholas, I was hopeful for a little bit, but he never really progressed much past wanting to make counted canvas bookmarks. The plastic canvas. So other than that, he hasn't really expressed much interest in wanting to stitch his own designs. Sarah used to stitch a little bit, but it was never really something she was all that interested in. She has plenty of other hobbies and interests, so I'll let it slide. And who knows, maybe one day she'll come back to it. I have just 2 more stitches in this motif, and then this little guy is done. 1 and 2. And that is it. One more leg. There, now that really is it. There we go. Oops. See, I should have railroaded that one. It's crooked. I'm gonna come backwards through there and do that one again. I don't like, you know, I'm not generally fussy, but sometimes if it's really one leg on top of the other, I can't really leave it. So there. Is that better? It's still not great, but it's better than before. Good. Good enough. Whoops. There goes the table. Wibble wobble. Okay, let's flip this. So in the end, and then I think it's time for another cup of coffee and a row of knitting while I get this video up on YouTube so that we can have a visit together tonight for Friday Off the Grid. I do fully intend on stitching this evening. I'm not sure I will be able to get the 6 hours in, but I will be at least getting 3 hours in. And so 3 hours tonight is my goal on this piece. Now, I've scuppered myself even further with this design in that I have only brought the bottom 2 pages of the chart, and the way the chart was laid out, they're not equal. So the top 2 pages have more than a quarter on each page, and the bottom 2 pages have less than a quarter. So I only have up until about here, and I know full well that there are 2 more of these motifs, and then something different happens in the middle here, and then it gets flipped, and then it continues as a mirror image of this part up here. So it's this middle section here that I am unsure of, but I can certainly do a Google image search to discover what the colors should be for these next 2 motifs. So I hope to complete those on both the left, and also the right side tonight. And then after that, I'll probably come in and do a little bit more of the oatmeal sort of bordery bit there, and it should be fine. I'm not gonna go too much further past the top of these, only because I don't want to have to rip it out if it's wrong. And you know, there's being brave, and then there's being foolhardy when you know you are flying by the seat of your pants without a pattern. So let's not be foolhardy. Caroline, let's use our noggins. All right, that is it for me today. I think I'm gonna go and I'm gonna head up to the horse barn just for a few minutes because I want to. I want to go and stare at the horses a little bit longer, and then come back and maybe make another cup of coffee and settle in. Then I'll get the video edited and uploaded. I still think I have time. It's only 2:30 here, so, and the internet connection is very good here in the house. At the cottage, things took a lot longer, but here things are nice and quick, so I should be able to get it uploaded fairly quickly so that we can have a visit. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope that you have some time to treat yourself to a little bit of time to work on your projects. And if you're joining in tonight with the 6-hour stitching party on Friday Off the Grid, I hope you'll share your progress on the Facebook group. You can find it on Facebook just by searching Friday Off the Grid. And there is a photo of a prairie schooler Christmas Santa design as the stitched piece as the header. So that's how you'll know that it's our group. And I hope you'll join us over there and share your progress with us for your weekend of stitching. Not everybody does their 6 hour stitching party on Friday night. Some people do it on Saturday. Some people do it on Sunday. Some people do it all week long. You know, there's usually always someone else who is sitting down to enjoy an extended period of stitching. So you can usually find a friend to cheer you on. And that's it. I better go find out what my dad is up to. And I will leave you here. And I will see you on Monday, on Labor Day, for a Monday floss tube video update. I'll see you then. Happy stitching.